Back on Inside Tennessee with the newest justice of the Tennessee Supreme Court, Justice Dwight Tarwater. Great to have you with us, Don Bosch.
It's going to be hard for me to start calling you Justice now. And in full disclosure, we've been friends for many years, both through swimming and law. But
you'll get used to it, Don.
Sure, I will have to scrape and bow with the rest of the bar. So
the apocalypse is near.
I know it's going to hurt. I'm curious, because you and I have had this discussion before, the effect of what really was the political retribution on your father-in-law to charge and indict and jail him. What effect has that had on you and your decisions throughout your career, which is a few years longer than mine, but about entering government service, either as a judge or some kind of political or elected appointee or elected official?
So back in the day when Mary and I began dating, she asked me if I could just be a lawyer and we'd be okay. And I agreed. I promised her that I would be a lawyer and I would not go into politics. And approximately 3 months before she died, we were having a glass of wine on the back porch, and she said, I was wrong to ask you of that. Will you please forgive me?
Oh.
And I release you from your pledge. And I said, I needed you to be a compass for me, and you were that. And a 25-year-old Dwight Tarwater in politics probably would not have been a good recipe. And so that was only about 2 or 3 months before she died. And then it's interesting that about a year later, then I got the call from Governor Haslam to be his general counsel. And I thought, what a great way to be in public service, because I can do what I know how to do.
Right.
And
not run an election.
And not run. So yeah, you're
Wonderful.
exactly right. Yeah.
And I want to follow up on that. The process now to become a Supreme Court justice is far different than it's been. I know Susan may follow up again when she remembers when they carried down the laws on stone tablets. But how difficult or how involved is the process to get you from point A all the way to the bench?
I've got to tell you, Don, it was much more rigorous than I expected it to be. The application process itself is very extensive. My application is probably 2 inches thick. After that, you appear before what's called the Governor's Council on Judicial Appointments. There are 11 of those people, 9 very accomplished lawyers and 2 very accomplished non-lawyers. And they ask you questions about your judicial philosophy, about all kinds of things that are difficult. And then they vote on your merit. And it's like having a jury out, except it's worse because it's about you. And then that council selects 3 names, and they then go to the governor. After that, there's an extensive background check by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. There are interviews with the governor's legal counsel and then the governor himself. And then after I got the call, John, I appeared before the Senate Judiciary Committee and the House Civil Justice Committee until the vote was taken in the joint convention.
Justice Tarwater, we know the court delivers the final word on many, many different cases before it. Justice, what is your judicial philosophy, and how would you describe it to someone who's not familiar with the law or even necessarily what that means?
Well, it's very simple for me. I believe that the words of the statute or the constitutional provision that is given to us by the General Assembly, by the legislature, is where you go. So I would rely on the text of the statute and the record and not go beyond that. I think that when judges make policy, it results in a lack of confidence that they are deciding the cases based upon the law and the record before them. And so my job is to be fair and impartial, to decide the cases based upon the record and the text of the statute and the Constitution, and not as the law as I wish it were, not as anyone else wishes it would be, but what it is. That creates confidence, and that upholds the rule of law.
So Dwight, in Justice, this is the first time in a long time that we've had a fully partisan court in the sense that all the appointees now are Republican. And I'll ask, because my Democratic friends would find it remiss, the Federalist Society, which was a staunch requirement of any judicial appointment on the federal side under Republican administration. Are you a member of the Federalist Society?
I'm not.
And do you plan on joining the Federalist Society once you get on the bench?
I really don't. I'm trying to have less professional associations now that I'm on the court. I guess never say never, but I have no plans. As you know, Don, you know my bio as well as anyone. I've been members of dozens of professional
Both of
associations.
us, many of the same ones, that's right.
But they are those that related significantly to my practice, and as well as the local and state bar associations. So those are the associations.
You
that
won't
I
be
belong
joining the ACLU either, will you?
to. No.
There's hope for you yet, Justice.
You're the first Knoxvillian appointed to the court in 50-something years. Is that correct?
I think that's right, Susan. I was trying to remember that myself. Hamilton Burnett actually lived in my neighborhood, West Hills, growing up, and I believe that he was the last justice from Knoxville, and I think he left the bench in the early 70s. So that'd be 50 years, yeah.
Been a long time.
We're going to come back with more of our conversation with Justice Tarwater right after this on Inside Tennessee.